Hey guys, Wave618 here. It is the 11th of January and we're going to do a Bitcoin update. So we have seen some incredible price action today with a massive sell-off in Bitcoin. We have seen a 28% drop from the all-time high. So the key talking point here is whether we're going to see a bounce back straight after this slight decline that we've seen. Obviously, as we see more volatility come in, you can get these big pullbacks. We had a 20% pullback not long ago and we managed to force out a new all-time high. So could we just bounce from this level, or is this the start of a big reversal further to the downside? So these are the key talking points in today's video. We will run through some key things such as this channel here on the weekly time frame. On top of that, we've got our weekly Camarilla Pivots, which have been really influential over the last 3 years. So I'll run through those with you also. Obviously, the RSI has been in really overbought territory here on the weekly time frame. We're at 95 here on the RSI. So last time we reached these kind of regions, we've always seen a relatively big reversal. On top of that, we've got some major gaps, some unfilled gaps on the chart here on the Bitcoin futures chart, which price generally has a tendency to gravitate towards. So a very key talking point there also. So we're going to run through all of these things and give my views on where I think price is going from here. So if interested, stay tuned. Alright guys, it is good to be back with another update, and I just want to say sorry that it's been a little bit of a while since my last video. You know how it is now, being a dad and all. I am sleep deprived to say the least. But I managed to find a bit of time this evening to squeeze in this video, so hopefully this will be of use. Now I want to say a massive thank you to you all for showing your appreciation to the videos as always. Showing your likes, all your positive comments. It's very, very flattering indeed. And yeah, I will continue to publish these videos as we have been. Now, just really following on from the last video, obviously in that video we were talking about the 39k target, which we did obviously surpass. We went on to 42k where we reached our all-time high. And yeah, since we actually hit that 39k target, my group will know I kind of fine-tuned the target to 43k, and I also did a post on Twitter talking about that target of 43k also. So we did fall just short of that. Now let me just run through the reasons for those kind of targets, 39 to 43k. So first of all, as you know, I've been looking at this as the more likely scenario in my opinion as the ABC, yeah. Though I'm very open to the possibility of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Either way, I've mentioned it really doesn't matter. Yeah, I expect a big pullback regardless. And we'll talk about the possibility of us still continuing to push higher here rather than pulling back any further. But as it stands, yeah, slight spoiler alert, I am expecting a bigger pullback here, okay? And we're going to go into that in detail. But either way, whether it's a wave 4 or an ABC, we're still looking at a pretty similar target to the downside. Yeah, a pretty deep retracement, okay? So those are the ways that we're looking at it. Now, I'll take off that impulsive count for now. Now, with the B wave, we were looking at that to be a fib projection of the A wave, and that was a target of around 1.382. So you can see the 1.382 target slightly surpassed. So this came into 39.6k, so just shy of 40k. You can see we've got that slight wick above it. As you'll often get with these fibs, you'll often get slight wicks above. You can't always expect price to rebound off it to the T. Okay, so that's one reason for a target around that point. And then obviously we've got a fib extension for this wave relative to this wave. So if we do our fib extension from there to there, that's our first wave extended from this bottom here, we've got a 1.618 target coming in at, you can see, just between 42 and 43k, depending on how well you plot your pivot points here. Yeah, so that is pretty much where we came to. You can see we might have fallen just shy of that level, that 42.4k level. Yeah, so that's another reason for resistance in and around this level. So what I was saying is it's really a case of trading between the levels. Yeah, so the target was 39k, fine-tuned to 43k, and I wanted to see how price reacted at these levels, and that is exactly what we're seeing right now. I wanted to see if we get a nice consolidation beneath resistance. That's fantastic. I'll be looking for longs to go in for another further position to the upside. However, if we got a big sell-off, then we've got to look at the alternative scenario, which could suggest a bigger reversal. And so we'll discuss that in today's video. We'll go into what we're seeing. We'll go in on the shorter time frames and we'll look at that. So those are two reasons for 43k as a potential reversal point. Another point, and this was actually highlighted by someone in my Discord. So yeah, this channel, I actually overlooked this, but they just posted it to me just the other day, and it's a very nice channel. It's a weekly time frame. You just join the lows here and do a parallel channel using the high here, and you can see we actually tagged the top of the channel here and actually overshot it, but you can see as we speak we're just back within the channel. So I think it's a pretty reasonable channel to be aware of. I do like the way it's kind of still holding on to price right now. Okay, so that's another reason for a bit of resistance in and around these levels. And then also very, very importantly, we've got our Camarilla Pivots. So here on the weekly time frame again, so don't forget on the weekly time frame, your Camarilla Pivot range here is 1 year. So this is for 2021, this is 2020, this is 2019, 2018 right here. Yeah, and you can see how these levels are very, very significant. So you can see for 2018 we found our low here around the S4. Into 2019 you can see we ranged between the R4 and R3, and then going into 2020 R3 resistance, S3 support, eventually managing to break out into a strong uptrend. And then what you get when you look at your strong uptrend, you then look for resistance in the R4 or R3 of the subsequent range. So this is for 2021, and so that was another reason for me looking at 43k, which is where the R4 sits. Yeah, so as you can see, we have got rejected at that point. We're now beneath the R3, so another sign of weakness. And you can actually use this, so this is for the whole of 2021. You can actually use these Camarilla Pivots, the S3 and the S4, to try and target how far we could potentially come down to. That is, if we are going to come down further. Okay, so yeah, these were, I just wanted to highlight first of all the reasons for the 43k resistance. On top of that, obviously we had our RSI, which there's not really much to say. We obviously really overbought territory here, so there's every excuse for a potential pullback at some point. Okay, now so that's really explains why 43k was very significant. Obviously we fell just short, coming in at 42k. Now what I had been talking about in recent videos was the smaller time frame Pitchfork that was holding the upward trend, and for me that was the key thing that would determine whether I was interested in holding on to long positions or not. So if we just quickly remove this fib, just go down to the 1 hourly, and let me just pull on that key Pitchfork that we had been following, just to highlight really how it really gave us a good warning sign that we were going to see this big reversal. So that is this Pitchfork here. So here on the hourly time frame, so we can see all the way from 24k when we broke out down here, it had been holding on to price action really, really well. A little bit of an overshoot, as you often get. So anyone who's watched or subscribe to The Juice, which is the most recent educational course that I released, I talk about the overshoot of Pitchforks, and often when you see that, it will precede a potential reversal in the trend, and you can see as a result we end up breaking the Pitchfork to the downside. Now I did mention to the group there was a little bit of hope when we actually wicked to the downside and then came back within the Pitchfork. There's a little bit of hope here. Okay, but really I wanted to see price continue strong within the Pitchfork, and you see we got rejected at the lower median line and we came straight back down. So once you see more time spent beneath the lower warning line, that was confirmation that this whole upward trend is being corrected right now. Okay, so the reason I like Pitchforks is because you can anticipate the reversal at this point. So this is at 37k. You could have anticipated the reversal. But if you're just using market structure, looking at higher highs and higher lows and looking for a reversal, you'd be waiting for this low to break to the downside. Okay, and that's obviously still not happened yet. the way it's looking, we're probably going to see further downside. So you can see how you get a delayed response using just market structure. You'd be waiting for 28k to be overcome before switching your high time frame bias, whilst here with Pitchforks all the way up at 37k you can start switching your bias. So that allows you to hold on to your profits and not, see your hard-earned gains get wiped out. So just a quick highlight there of how pitchforks are useful. There were two warning signs: the overshoot of the pitchfork to the upside. Obviously all the resistance that we were was just above us at around 42 to 43k, and then also coming out of the pitchfork. That was the main confirmation once we lost the lower warning line. Okay, so that was the key thing that we were looking out for. Now what's happening here is we're following a new pitchfork, so I can actually remove this now because it's no longer significant, this pitchfork here. And if we just bring on this pitchfork now, so this is an original pitchfork. It's literally using this first pivot as an all-time high, second pivot and third pivot. We're following the pitchfork very, very nicely. You can see we've come down pretty fast all the way down to the lower warning line, and I would not be surprised to see a little bit of a bounce whenever you hit the lower warning line. But in my opinion, as it stands, this is likely just to be a dead cat bounce, meaning that we're going to see a little bit of a bounce, but ultimately we're going to see further lower lows. That is how it's looking right now. Invalidation of this downtrend is getting above this upper median line. So far, there's not been any price action above the upper median line. Okay, so once we get above that, I'll be happy to start looking out for long positions. Ideally, I'd want to see price above the upper warning line, but I think we can anticipate a switch in sentiment once we get above the upper median line. Okay, so that's the kind of thing I would want to see as a bit of a show of strength, suggesting the bulls are coming back and taking a bit of control. Until we see that, I'm more interested in short positions. Okay, I've plotted on a few ODB levels. Again, this is ODBs are oldest daily blocks, and they are discussed within the Juice course, where I go into those in detail. And yeah, they're basically how I plot my horizontal levels. So you can see some key levels here, and what I look for is daily closes in relation to these very key levels. So as you can see, we're kind of caught up within this range right here between, this is 33k, the upper part of the range, and the lower part of the range is at 32k. So 32 to 33 is where we're sitting right now. And yeah, I mean, you might argue it's a bit of a show of strength if we finish the day above 33k. But personally, I would want to see price above the upper median line before looking for any long positions again. I know a lot of people like trying to catch a knife and keep going long whenever they see these spikes down and these sudden rebounds. But in my opinion, this is just an oversold bounce, and we're probably very likely to see further downside. Okay, so next things to talk about is we can just quickly bring on some Camarilla Pivots as well. So we've got a Camarilla Pivots here. So on the 1 hourly time frame, you can see another explanation for a bounce here. We've got Confluence with the lower warning line and the 1 hourly S4. Okay, so that can also explain why we've seen a little bit of a bounce, and you might even just see us come into the S3. That might be a short-term target for a bit of a bounce to the upside. So this comes in at 34k. So it may just make it to that point. You might get a bit of confluence also with the median line before it starts rolling over further. Alternatively, it might be a more of a slow drawn out move sideways, where you might come in to your upper median line and then find some S3 confluence with the 1 hourly Camarilla Pivot here. If that happens, you get this nice corrective move coming higher. That'd be a wonderful position for a short position if it came into around this point, just like that. Okay, so that's the kind of thing I'll be looking out for to time any short positions. I'd really be using this pitchfork to time any short. So any kind of short time frame corrective sequences that complete, for example, some kind of zigzag or a triangle, anything like that, coming in with confluence of these pitchfork lines, I'd be very happy to go short on any of those. All right, now let's talk about, obviously, I've got that bearish bias now, having broken that key pitchfork to the upside. And let's talk about how far we can expect price to come down. Okay, so for this, first of all, I think let's take off the Camarilla Pivots. Well, in fact, whilst we've got Camarilla Pivots on, let's go on the weekly. And let's just look at where the S3 and S4, because I mentioned this at the start of the video that these are very significant. So S3 sits at 22k, okay? S4 is all the way down here, and that's at 15k, okay? Personally, yes, it could come down this far, but judging by the really strong positive sentiment that we've seen in Bitcoin, I've got a feeling that it may not retrace that far. I think it would be more reasonable to see a retracement in and around 22k. That is the kind of rough target that I'm looking at. So this S3 level is my initial target. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm looking for price to come down. Now, obviously, the C wave here, if we're looking at it as a C wave, as a running flat A, B, C, well, if you're using the linear scale, you'd be looking for C to be a similar price move to the A wave, and obviously A dropped from 20k down to 3k, so it's a roughly 17k drop. So 17k from 42 brings you to 25. So I think you might get a slight overshoot down to 22. So again, you're getting kind of a bit of confluence with the S3 in and around that point. So that's if you're using your linear scale. If you're using the log scale, if you do like a fib extension here, let's take off magnet mode. If you do a fib extension of this A wave and just extend it from the start of the C, you can see obviously the 1-to-1 comes down at 7,000. That's way too low in my opinion. I cannot see us coming down that low. But a more reasonable target might be the 0.618, which you can often see as a fib extension for the C wave. And that actually comes into about 14k. And it actually gives a nice bit of confluence with this high here. Okay, so that is possible, but again, I think it's a little bit extended. And first things, I think a more modest target would be the 22k region. I would certainly be looking for a little bit of support around that point. Okay, so that's just looking at it with these from the ABC point of view. Now let's just take a look at it in case we're actually looking at more of a 1, 2, 3. This is our 4, and we're going into a 5th. Yeah, if that's the case, then you want to do a fib retracement of this move up. So if we do our fib retracement all the way up to here, yeah, so you've got your 0.236 that comes in at 24k. So that is kind of within that region. Obviously, you might just get a wick through it, hitting the S3 of the Camarilla pivot and then bouncing back up. So yeah, a 0.236 retracement might be a reasonable target. Alternatively, you've got your 0.382, which would be your next target, and that comes in at around 17k. All right, but again, multiple reasons for a bit of resistance being found in and around this 22 to 24k region. So you got your 0.236 fib retracement, you've got your S3 Camarilla pivot, and we've also got that 0.618 fib extension of the C wave relative to the A. Okay, also on the linear scale, if you were going to extend C in relation to A, a 17k drop would bring you into around 25k. So lots of reasons for kind of confluence in and around that point. So that's basically what I'm looking out for. Personally, I really trust these Camarilla pivots. This is what I go off. As you can see, they get respected really, really well. And for me, this is how I'm plotting my main target, hitting the S3 at 22k here. So that's my main target. On top of that, obviously, we've got some gaps, which this is a really obvious gap that I'm sure price would gravitate to close. So the bottom of this is actually at 23.6. So that's another bit of confluence in and around that point. We've got further gaps to the downside at 18k here and 17k here. And yes, there are further gaps to the downside, but as I say, main one to target first and foremost is this level. So in and around 22k, that's the target I'm looking at. So another bit of evidence there is this gap that we've got. Obviously, I will be looking to see how price reacts at that level once it gets there, and certainly it might be further shorts that are in play, but hopefully we'll see a bit more bullish price action coming in, taking us higher. So short-term targets, I'm saying intermediate term targets, I'm aiming for around 22k. That's what I'm looking out for right now. And as I say, invalidation of the downward move is getting above this upper median line on this shorter time frame Pitchfork. So that's this upper median line, yeah. So it's a dynamic line. Obviously, depending on where we come through this point, in terms of time, it will determine what the price level is. So I can't say what price level it will break this line. For invalidation, you really need to draw the pitchfork yourselves using the first, second, third pivots. It's an original pitchfork on the log scale. All of those parameters are required to make sure your pitchfork looks correct. At present, you can see we're just holding on to this lower median line, also beneath this ODB level here. Okay, so I think I've pretty much summarized all of the things I want to talk about. So reasons for the bearish bias, reasons for the target, and my invalidation point being above this upper median line. Those are the main things I wanted to highlight to you all. So hopefully that has been pretty sound and clear. And if of course you want to be receive shorter term updates and be the first to hear about them before anyone else on social media, then it is a case of just joining the group, which I'll just mention quickly is that here at wave618.com, and you basically just go to this product here, which is Cryptology. Clicking on it, you'll get all the information about what's included. It includes my full educational course. You get access to the Discord, and that is where I throw out my updates. So check that out if interested. Okay, and last but not least, we will do our raffle for free access to the juice using the comments from the previous video. And as you know, if you want to enter the raffle for the next video, then just leave a comment in today's video. All right, guys. So first things first, we've got the URL here already put in. We've got the comments ready here. There's 59 this time around, and we are going to start the raffle. Okay, so here we have the winner, Jochi Konda. Hope you'll be able to include a primer on which altcoins to watch when Bitcoin dominance comes down. Appreciate your renewed vigor in publishing regular content during this exciting period. Okay, thank you very much, Jochi. So just send me an email. Email is within the description of the video, and I'll be able to send over you that free access to the juice. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Take care.